I do.
Do you recognize the young lady seated to my right?
Yes.
And who is she?
Amanda Burquest.
And when did you come to know her?
March of last year.
And how did you come to know her?
We observed her outside. We stopped her and detained her.
Why'd you detain her?
For suspicious activity.
What crime did you suspect her of committing?
We suspected her of violating the judicial order, videotaping in and around the building.
And did you say and around the building?
Yes.
Does the judicial order actually say the words and around, or is that your own words?
That was what we were told at the time.
Who told you that?
I don't recall.
Well, it's very important to know, so I need you to really dig deep and try to remember who told you that the policy is to detain people taking pictures outside of the building, please.
I'm going to object. It was just asked. It was just answered. He said he doesn't remember.
What could you do to help us to help yourself remember?
Objection vague.
I'd like an answer.
I don't know.
Are there any emails you could look through?
Not that I can recall.
Text messages?
No.
Facebook messages?
It was just the standard policy dating back to after 9/11.
So you received some sort of training, or was it a phone call? How is it that you first learned after 9/11 that you're supposed to detain people taking pictures outside of the building?
That was the policy that we were told back then.
Back when?
After 9/11,
Okay, so you were told this in 2001?
approximately.
And you haven't been told that since?
Not that I can recall.
How many other people that you can think of have been detained for taking pictures outside of the courthouse since 2001?
I couldn't answer that.
Any that you can think of?
There have been other reports done, yes.
Okay. When's the most recent one that you can think of?
I don't know.
All right. And your testimony is that you were told there was a written policy. How is it that this policy was conveyed to you that you're supposed to detain people outside of the building taking pictures?
It was just a standing policy we had.
Did you hear my question?
Can you repeat it?
Sure. How is it that you became aware of the policy? Did somebody tell you? Did somebody post it? Was it an email?
Far as back I remember, it would have been the Chief Deputy Robert Beavers.
Okay. And when would that have been?
After 2001.
Where's Robert Beavers now?
He's dead.
When did he die?
I don't recall.
Did he only tell you, or did he tell other people also?
No, it was in... I don't know if it went out at a meeting or something like that. I don't really recall.
But you definitely recall that however it is he told you, he included that you're supposed to detain people taking pictures outside of the building. Right?
If they were, yes.
All right. Was there anything in writing about this?
I don't recall.
All right. Have you discussed this case with anybody else in preparation for today other than your lawyer?
No.
All right. Have you reviewed anything?
Just my offense incident reports.
You didn't review the actual policy or the judicial order that you referred to?
No.
Okay. Have you looked at the judicial order since March?
Yes.
All right. When did you look at it? From the time, well, okay. You arrested Ms. Berquist on, I think it was March 28th, 2018, right?
Correct.
Okay. After you arrested her, did you look at the order that day?
No.
How soon after the arrest did you look up the order to see what it actually said?
I don't recall.
Okay. Was it very soon after? Was it only after you got served with a lawsuit? Can you help me out at all? Because it's almost a year later.
Again, I can't recall when I looked at it.
Do you remember if it was hot or cold outside?
I don't.
Do you remember where you looked it up?
I don't recall.
Did you ask somebody to bring it to you, or did you look it up yourself?
I believe it was sent to us by our main offices.
So when you say it was, I'm sorry?
By a chief of court's office.
What's that person's name?
At that time, I think it would have been Eddie Avant.
And he sent it to you by way of email, text message. How did he send it to you?
I don't recall.
Is it documented somewhere
Is what documented?
that he sent this to you? Is there a note somewhere indicating that he sent it to you? Is there a text message, a phone call, an email, anything that would point to him actually sending you this judicial order? And again, we're talking after Ms. Berquist was arrested.
I can't answer that for sure.
Okay. You've had a chance to review the order since the arrest?
I read it back then, yes.
Okay. And does it say in and around the building?
It does not.
All right. It says in the building, right?
Yes.
Right. Because in the building is where the order pertains to, right?
Correct.
Outside of the building is public, and anybody could take pictures there all day and all night, right?
Correct.
In fact, Ms. Berquist could go outside right now and do exactly what she was doing back on the day that you arrested her, and if you saw her doing it, what would you do today?
I want to object. It calls for speculation. You can answer it if you understood the question.
We probably would not have detained her.
Would not have detained her. So if you would have actually known the law, you would not have detained her, right?
Well, right now we would know what she was doing out there. But at the time, we didn't know if she was videotaping people coming out, videotaping witnesses, videotaping people that were involved in domestic violence, videotaping inside the door where the posts were. We didn't know that.
Any of those examples you just gave, if that's what you thought she was doing, would you arrest her then?
Then?
Now. Would you arrest her now?
Now I know who she is and I know what she's doing.
Forget her. Let's say somebody else is outside. We get done with the deposition, you walk outside or you look outside your window and you see somebody filming the building. Are you going to go over and detain that person or not?
I'm going to object again. Calls for speculation.
I'd like an answer.
Unless I instruct you not to answer, you can still answer. I just like to object.
So again, the question, just so that we have the question and answer, and the objection is noted. If you look outside your window right now, today, January 15th, 2019, and you see somebody standing there taking pictures of the building, taking video of the building, what would you do?
We're still going to approach them to find out what they're doing.
And what if they don't want to tell you? What would you do then?
Well, then, again, we would handle it in a case-by-case incident.
Okay. Is there any situation in which the person just says, I'm not talking to you, and you would detain them now that you know the actual order?
I'm going to object again. It's calling for speculation. You can answer it if you understood.
I can't say.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Are you armed right now?
Yes.
Are you going to pull out your gun and shoot me right now?
I'm going to object. That's argumentative. That's harassment.
I'm not arguing with anything.
Let's not do that.
Are you telling him to not answer that question?
No, he can answer, but
I'd like an answer
let's not
to this.
do that.
What was the question again?
Right now, are you going to pull out your gun and shoot somebody? Yes or no?
I would object. For form, foundation, well, what's the question? You're going to pull out your gun and shoot someone?
He answered it. And the reason you wouldn't do it is because it's illegal, right?
Correct.
Am I asking you to speculate about what you would do?
Are you asking me to speculate on what? Whether I would shoot you or not?
Yeah, you were able to answer that question very quickly and easily. Without your attorney objecting. Excuse me.
I'm going to object.
Excuse me.
Again.
Excuse me.
This is harassing.
Without your attorney objecting that I'm asking you to speculate.
There are specific determinations on whether or not I can use deadly force.
Okay, excellent. Now, let's go back to my example. You look outside the window, you see somebody pointing a camera at the building, just like Amanda was in March of 2018, and videoing the building. Are you going to detain that person or not?
I'm going to again object. It's a cause for speculation.
Right. Speculate.
In that situation, there are no determinate prerequisites or ways to know whether or not we would do that. It doesn't say if they videotape this, you can do this. If you don't, you could do this. With lethal force, it's all documented.
Excellent. Okay, now it's documented for this also, isn't it? You get to detain people if they're recording in the building, right?
Yes.
Is there a policy that tells you when you're allowed to detain somebody outside of the building?
If suspicious activity, yes.
Did you hear the question?
Did you hear my answer?
Did you hear my question? I'm not going to answer your questions today.
Okay, then I'm not sure. You're going to have to repeat your question.
My question was, do you know of a policy that tells you if and when you're allowed to detain somebody taking pictures outside of the building?
I'm going to object. It was just asked and answered.
I'd like an answer, please, this time.
Repeat your question again.
Do you know if there is a policy that tells you when you are allowed to detain somebody for taking pictures outside of the building?
If it falls under suspicious activity, there is procedures to follow.
Okay, what constitutes suspicious activity under this policy?
Well, we're responsible for a lot of people here and the safety of this building. So if we feel that somehow it could be a safety risk, we can detain.
And wouldn't there have to be something other than just taking pictures for you to decide that it's suspicious and you need to detain the person?
How would we know that they were doing anything other than that?
Well, what I'm asking you is, why do you get to detain somebody unless you do know?
I'm not following your question.
Okay, I'm asking you a very, very simple question. Let me ask it this way.
Okay.
Are you allowed to detain people for taking pictures outside of the building, yes or no?
If it falls under suspicious activity, then we can detain people and find out what they're doing and who they are.
And is that a policy, a Cook County Services Department policy?
Suspicious activity, yes.
Yeah, policy 172, right?
Correct.
Suspicious activity reporting. Right, is that the policy?
Correct.
Can I have a few markers, please? I'd like to, yeah. All right, thank you. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 1, and I'd like you first to identify this document, please. And for the record, this is bait stamped CCSAO Bergquist 000013. Is that the policy that you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Please, I'm going to hand you my highlighter. I'm going to ask you please to highlight the portion there where it tells you that you're allowed to detain people for taking pictures outside of the building. Excellent. So I see that there's something on the first page that you highlighted, two things on the second page that you highlighted, and well, the third page is mainly blank, so nothing's highlighted there. All right, now the first thing that you highlighted is, and I'm going to read exactly what you highlighted. Examples of suspicious activity may include but are not limited to. Did I read that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. Where does it say there that you get to detain people? And I'm going to hand it back to you so you can show me. And this time highlight, please, where it says you get to detain people.
Okay. It does not say it in that paragraph.
Excellent. Where does it say it? Use the highlighter.
Down under reporting and investigation.
Okay. So now we're moving to the second page. You highlighted two things. One thing over here says that the responsibilities of the respective department head include but are not limited to. Then the next thing is 172.4, reporting and investigation. You highlighted these words. Any member receiving information regarding suspicious activity should take any necessary, immediate, and appropriate action. And that's the end of the highlighting. And your testimony, obviously, is that this authorizes you to detain people who are acting in a way that you feel is suspicious, right?
Yes.
And just so that I understand this correctly, if right now we could go back in time and replay exactly what happened on the day that you arrested Ms. Bergquist. So now we're back to that moment where you don't know her and you don't know what she's doing. But you do get to go back and decide if you're going to arrest her. Are you going to arrest her or not?
I'm going to object again. It's a cause for speculation. You can answer.
You're asking me if it happened tomorrow, what would I do?
Nope, that's not what I asked you.
Okay.
If you could go back in time to the day that you arrested her, would you still arrest her?
So you're asking me if I can go back in time?
Yeah.
I don't know how I could do that.
Okay. Did you understand my question?
I did, and you're asking me to suppose whether or not I can go back in time. I can't.
So you can't tell me if you would still arrest her?
I can't tell you what would happen on that day if I went back in time, no.
Okay. Is this an attempt to be funny?
Not a bit.
Are you trying to answer my questions?
I'm trying to answer your question.
You really can't figure this out because you can't wrap your head around time travel. That's what you're saying?
Object again. I mean, I'm going to object. It's getting to be harassing again. I mean, is this what the question is? Hypothetical time travel backwards?
Is that really how you interpreted the question?
Is that what you're asking? If you could go back in time, would you do it differently? Is that not what you're asking?
Yeah, that is what I asked him.
Okay. Well,
I don't think that asks him to do time travel.
It's asking him to speculate.
Okay.
So I'm rejecting
So object
that.
to speculation.
And I'm rejecting that it's harassing as well.
Excellent. I'm harassing. Thank you. If you could go back in time and not arrest her, would you arrest her or not?
I can't say what I would do.
Okay. Do you feel that the arrest of her was proper or not?
The detainment was proper.
The detainment was proper. What information did you receive regarding suspicious activity?
I'm not sure what the question means.
Okay. The part that you highlighted here says any member receiving information regarding suspicious activity should take any necessary, immediate, and appropriate action. What I'm asking you is, what did Ms. Bergquist do, or what information did you receive regarding suspicious activity?
Well, the fact that she was videotaping the building and possibly inside the doors, just suspicious.
Okay. Is it against the law to do that?
Not necessarily.
Is it ever against the law to do that?
No.
Thank you. So if you detain somebody for doing something which is not against the law, isn't that an unlawful detainment?
Not if we're required to do a report and we can't justify what they were doing there.
Okay. So, are you familiar with the Cook County Sheriff's Office Strategic Operations Center informational bulletins? Do you know what those are?
Yes.
There's one that's titled Photographing Exterior of County Facilities. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 2. And this is Bates stamped CCSAO, Bergquist 000016 and 17. find a spot that it doesn't obstruct any of the words, and I'm going to ask you to take this document. I'm also going to give you my highlighter again. Tell me if there's anything there that allows you to detain people for taking pictures. All right. You highlighted date of information June 20th, 18, and date of report June 2018. Did you understand my question?
I did.
Okay, so I'm going to hand it back to you again.
Okay.
And the question is there anything in here that allows you to detain people for taking pictures outside of the building?
Okay, the answer to it is this bulletin came out after the fact.
So what you're saying is that this modified the county's policy?
I did not have this bulletin in my hands in order to make a decision.
Did you hear my question?
I don't know if it modified the policy or not. All I know is I did not have the bulletin in my hands on March 28th to make a decision.
Does Exhibit 2, the informational bulletin, contradict in any way the suspicious activity reporting policy 172 that's marked as Exhibit 1?
Okay.
And I'll give them both back to you.
Sure.
All right, you just highlighted something else on Exhibit 1.
I did.
This says the policy was issued on June 1st, 2018, and shall become effective upon issuance. Okay, well, you must not be understanding my question. What I'm asking you is, Exhibit 1, suspicious activity reporting, your testimony is that this allows you to detain people taking pictures outside, right?
Correct.
Okay. Exhibit 2, does this allow you to take detain people of taking pictures? Does Exhibit 2, the informational bulletin, allow you to detain people for taking pictures outside of the building?
What I'm saying is that both of those bulletins came out after the fact. I did not have those at the time to make a decision.
I didn't ask you that. Did you hear the question? What was the question?
You want to know if it had the information in there that you're looking for.
No. Okay, so let me explain the question. The question is very simple. Is there anything in Exhibit 2 that gives you the authority to detain people for taking pictures outside of the building? You have my highlighter. Please highlight the part that talks about that. So, if I understand your testimony correctly, Exhibit 1 gives you authority to detain people for taking pictures outside. Exhibit 2 does not give you authority to do that, right?
Correct.
Don't they contradict each other in that regard?
Okay. Yes.
They do. Okay. So, if they contradict each other, then which one should we look at? Which one do we listen to? Exhibit 1 or Exhibit 2?
Well, the bulletins are just bulletins. The other ones are policy.
Is it possible that you're just not understanding the suspicious activity reporting when you think that it tells you that you get to detain people for taking pictures?
Okay, so you're asking my interpretation of it?
Yeah.
Okay, my interpretation is yes, I can detain.
Okay. I'm asking you, rather than saying that we have two opposing documents here put out by the same county, isn't it possible that really they don't contradict each other? And the explanation here is simply that you don't understand Exhibit 1, the suspicious activity reporting policy.
Okay, and again, both of those came out after the fact. I did not have those to go back and utilize to make a decision.
What question did I just ask you?
Okay, your question, my answer to your question is I don't know.
Okay, what question? What question are you saying you don't know to?
You wanted to know.
Can you repeat the question,
Sure.
please?
Do you not know the question?
Repeat it.
Okay, fine. The question is very simple. Isn't it possible that Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 don't contradict each other, and that the explanation for why you think they do is that you don't understand Exhibit 1?
No,
It's not possible.
it's not possible.
Okay, because in your mind, Exhibit 1, Suspicious Activity Reporting, Policy 172, allows you to detain people taking pictures outside if you believe that it's suspicious.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any objective component to that, or is it only subjective?
Subjective.
Completely subjective. So if I'm standing outside taking a picture and you feel that my shirt is suspicious, you can detain me for that, right?
I'm going to object again. Calls for speculation.
What kind of shirt are you wearing?
Regular blue button-down shirt.
Okay. I don't find anything suspicious about that.
What if you do? Then you're allowed to detain me, right?
I'm going to object again. Calls for speculation.
Do I get an answer?
You want to know if I object to your shirt?
No, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, I'm trying to use an example, but it doesn't have to be an example if you don't want it to be. If there's something, your testimony is that it's completely subjective. It's up to whichever officer is looking. If that officer subjectively believes that's suspicious, you get to detain that person. That's your testimony, right?
If we feel that it could interfere with the security of this building and the people in it, yes.
Did you hear my question?
That was my answer.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question. Is there any objective component to it, or is it strictly subjective?
Explain the difference.
Okay. Do you know the difference between objective and subjective?
I'd like to hear what you're asking me.
Do you not know the difference between objective and subjective?
Okay, can you ask the question?
I don't have to answer your questions today.
Okay.
I asked you a question. Do you know the difference?
I'm not understanding your question then.
Okay. Do you know the difference between objective and subjective?
Yes.
Okay. What is the difference in your own words?
One is concrete and one is I can't think of another word for it.
So which one is concrete? Objective or subjective? Okay, so objective is concrete. All right. Subjective is how you personally feel about something, right? Right?
Perception.
Perception. Your own perception. Right?
Correct.
Not based on any objective evidence, but based on your own subjective opinions and beliefs of what's happening, right?
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, and I just want to make sure I understand this, because you're a lieutenant, right?
Yes.
How many ranks are there above lieutenant in Cook County?
Ranks, actual merit ranks?
Yeah, how much higher do we get?
It's the last merit rank.
So you're the highest.
Yes.
Congratulations. So as a lieutenant, you're telling me that these policies that I'm looking at allow a police officer to detain anybody who they subjectively believe is acting suspicious.
Well, first of all, those
Yes or
aren't
no?
both policies.
Okay. Did you hear the question I just asked you?
Yes.
Can you please answer it?
I did. They're not both policies. Policy 172 is the policy we have to follow.
The informational bulletin you don't have to follow?
It's just informational.
Who writes the informational bulletins?
I have no idea.
But you don't have to follow them.
They're just for information.
Did you hear my question?
We follow the policies.
Do you have to follow them? Do you have to
Policies?
follow the informational bulletins?
No, we're ordered to follow the policies.
What does U//LES stand for? Do you know?
No.
Do people have the right to photograph the outside of the building? This building, this Cook County Courthouse?
Yes.
Okay. If I understand your testimony correctly, though, if they're doing that, and any police officer subjectively believes that they're acting suspicious, that person could be detained. That's your testimony, right?
Yes.
So even if they're not actually doing anything suspicious, if there's something that they're doing which the officer subjectively believes is suspicious, he gets to detain that person, right?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment, by the way?
Vaguely.
What does it say in your own vague terms?
No illegal search and seizure.
Right, unless there's
Probable cause.
Or?
That's about all I know.
Okay, all right, good enough. He said that's about all I know. All right, now, there was somebody else who asked you the same question that I just asked you about your familiarity with the Fourth Amendment. Who's in this room right now? Do you know who that person was? My client, Ms. Berquist, asked you that, didn't she?
I don't recall.
She asked you, are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment? You don't remember that?
No.
Okay. Did you watch any videos to prepare for today's deposition?
No.
Since the lawsuit was filed, have you watched any videos?
Yes.
Which videos have you seen?
The video that was posted online and Sergeant Larson's body cam.
Excellent. And on that video, you don't remember you asking Ms. Berquist, I'm sorry, you don't remember Ms. Berquist asking you if you're familiar with the Fourth Amendment?
I don't recall.
All right. If I tell you that your answer was, oh great, why do we always get the crazies, would you dispute that?
No.
Does that sound like something you would say to somebody?
That's something I did say that day, yes.
So you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember saying that in response to the question, are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment?
No, I just remember saying it.
Why is it that you felt she was one of the crazies?
When people act in a way that is not in their best interest.
How is she acting that was not in her best interest?
Well, at any time, all she had to do was identify herself. We could have done our report and everything could have gone,
And if somebody were to threaten you that unless you comply with their demands, they're going to put you in handcuffs, would you automatically necessarily comply with their demands?
Yes.
Well, object.
You would.
Calls for speculation.
He was able to answer. So you would. So even if there's somebody who is acting as a law enforcement officer, giving you an unlawful order, threatening you with detainment or arrest or 90 days jail, if you don't comply with their unlawful demands, you would still comply?
Yes.
Alrighty. Is that what you expected her to do, to comply?
Yes.
What lawful basis was there for you to demand her ID? Identification.
You're right. We were looking for identification, find out why she was there and what she was doing.
Did you hear the question I just asked you?
That was my answer.
What question did you just answer?
What justified asking for her ID?
What lawful basis was there for you to ask for her ID?
I don't know.
What lawful basis was there for you to demand her ID?
I don't know.
What lawful basis was there for you to put her in handcuffs in response to her not giving you her ID?
I don't know.
Was there one?
I don't know.
Doesn't there have to be a lawful basis for you to put somebody in handcuffs?
If we're detaining them for investigation, then we're going to put them in handcuffs for officer security, yes.
For what lawful basis? What lawful basis was there for you to put her in handcuffs?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Would you agree with me that the only time you get to arrest somebody is if you have probable cause that they committed a crime?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. What crime did you have probable cause to believe that Ms. Berquist committed?
At the time, I believe she was violating the judicial order.
At the time?
And was acting suspiciously, and for that reason, I detained her for further investigation.
Okay. I'm not sure you understood my question. My question was, what crime did you have probable cause to believe she committed?
At that time, I believe she was violating judicial order. We believe she was acting suspiciously, and we detained her for further investigation.
Okay. Well, you arrested her, right?
Detained.
You didn't arrest her?
We detained her for investigation.
You didn't ever at any point arrest her?
We never processed any arrests, no.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you at any point arrested her. I didn't ask you about processing arrests.
No object. Calls for a legal conclusion.
Did you arrest her?
We detained her.
Did you hear my question?
I did.
Did you arrest her? It's a yes or no.
No.
What's the difference between arrest and detain? even though you don't know the difference between detain and arrest, your testimony here today is that you detained her but did not arrest her?
Yes.
Is there any training required to become a lieutenant in Cook County? So yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. What training did you get before you had to become a lieutenant? Well, actually, let me strike that question and ask you this one. As a lieutenant, you were a supervisor to other people, right?
Yes.
Okay, because you work in the Cook County Sheriff's Office, right?
Yes.
And that's a paramilitary organization, is it
Yes.
not? Okay, so there's a rank, right?
Yes.
And there's a chain of command.
Yes.
And lieutenants are pretty high up on that chain of command, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how many people at any point would you say you have control over in that chain of command?
In this facility?
Anywhere in Cook County?
Well, that would vary by what facility I was in.
How many people answer to you in this entire county?
Just this facility.
Let's say just this facility, sure.
55.
Okay, so 55 people answer to you. What would you do if one of those people said to you, what's the difference between arrest and detain? What would your answer be?
We'd call legal.
Mr. Gorman, seated to your left?
No. Sheriff has their own legal.
Oh, okay. Their own legal who helps them understand things like the difference between arrest and detain?
Yes.
Gotcha. Was there a lawful basis to handcuff her?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that lawful basis?
Officer safety.
Gotcha. Okay, now, in order to detain somebody, would you agree with me that you need reasonable suspicion that the person's committing a crime?
Yes.
Okay, great. What crime did you have reasonable suspicion to believe Ms. Berquist was committing when you detained her?
We believe she was violating the judicial order for the building.
The judicial order which said you're not allowed to take pictures in a building?
Yes.
Because you thought it said in and around the building?
Yes.
But in reality, taking pictures outside the building is not included in that judicial order, is it?
Found out that later.
Is it? It's not?
No.
Good. So, was your detainment of Ms. Berquist lawful or unlawful?
No object again, it calls for legal conclusion.
I can't make a lawful conclusion.
You can't answer that question?
I cannot answer that question.
Okay. I just want to make very certain about this. I'll give you an opportunity to take a break and confer with your counsel before we proceed. I don't want to get another answer at trial. I want to make sure that your answer I get today is the same answer I hear at trial. Okay? So do you want to take a moment to confer with your attorney before you answer that?
No.
Okay. So your answer is you don't know.
Yes.
Was Ms. Berquist detained for taking pictures?
Yes. And for not identifying herself.
Right. Is there a law that requires people to identify themselves when requested by law enforcement?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you delete her pictures?
No.
Who did?
Don't know.
You don't know who deleted her pictures?
No.
By the time you got in front of Judge Peter Felice, they were deleted, weren't they?
As far as I know, they were still on there.
You grabbed her camera away from her outside, did you not?
Yes.
From that point until you were in front of Judge Peter Felice,